Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports with us, David Smoak and 365 Sports. I think this is going to be a fun week. I think we might see some maybe movement. We might see some, obviously, the SEC with their scheduling, Texas and OU for the first time without a vote, but they'll be involved. Your thoughts about just this week is kind of refreshing maybe in a way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it doesn't sound like I'm at the SEC, but it doesn't sound like big news, but it's big news to them, whether to go whether to go to 8 or 9 conference games. It's a huge decision for them, given Texas OU, given going to 16, given that nobody knows what a 12-team playoff and access is really going to look like, and the money involved. So I have a feeling that they're just going to stay at 8 at the end of the day, either that or kick the can down the road. And you've got the Big 12, which obviously will receive some sort of significant expansion update. I mean, there's too much going on.
Yeah, which one do you think has a better chance of happening? The SEC, as you mentioned, probably won't expand to 9 games, at least now, or at some point they will down the road. Or there is perhaps, we've been seeing in our site, Sikkim365.com, and some of the guys that are, that this May 31st, June 1st, and yet we don't know because, you feel like something's not more just simmering, but maybe even bubbling?
Yeah, I mean, look, every day that goes by has to make the Pac-12 team more nervous because every industry source I talk to says they don't have a linear partner. They don't have 50% linear, and they can't figure, even though they're telling people in the room, we've got a major carrier, no one in the industry can figure out what it is. So is that enough to make any of those schools nervous and that, throw in the discussion of even if they get a deal, is it within 10% or whatever it takes of the Big 12 number? That's another thing. And then the final part is visibility. Where will it be seen? If it's too much on streaming, that could be a deal. So those factors remain.
Do you get the sense that if one was to move early, if in fact that happens, if they actually, okay, let's do this, it would be Colorado first?
I think Colorado and Arizona most likely. That's what I've said for a while now. Because of history, CU is a legacy program, and now is a Big 12 legacy, having played from 1948 to 2010 in the Big 7, Big 8, Big 12. So in some way that would, have to help the transition. But now you've got this public thing where the Oklahoman is reporting a Big 12 source, Barry Trammell, the columnist there, that CU is coming, quote, soon. You've got Colorado AD Rick George not exactly denying that interest, saying we just got to do what's best for Colorado. And how many times, Smokey, have we heard that over the years in the Big 12 when that's the last thing they say before there is a move, whether it's A&M, Nebraska, Missouri, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's usually the final thing they say before they make a move.
One of the things that I feel like is going to happen as well with whoever decides, let's say if, in fact, someone decides to leave from the Pac-12, and again, that's, who knows, but that they are ready, the Big 12, to offer them a full share immediately, whenever that year would be, I guess, 2024 or 5, that they would, 25, they would be able to walk in the door and get a full share. If it's a power or autonomy 5 school.
I think it's in the contract. I think it's a Power 5 expansion. They're guaranteed a full share. So that, I don't think, is even a discussion. The contract is written well. For the group of 5, there's a discussion. But if it would be a Colorado or an Arizona or any of those, they get full share right in there. So, then the decision would be, is that, you take the sure thing. The sure thing right now is a 7-year deal in the Big 12, which is going to, it's going to grow. I mean, when they signed the deal on Halloween, I was told the ADs in the Big 12 think their all-in number eventually is going to be $50 million a year. And that includes bowl money, playoff money, NCAA tournament money. Because it's not just the number we're talking about is the base figure. The total revenue distribution is what all those ADs just clamor for. And they think it's going to be close to 50 million. If you're in the Pac-12 right now, wouldn't you take that?
Well, you'd love to have something to compare it to, but yeah, because it doesn't appear that number. Who knows what might happen? But the stability, the fact that this is drawn out longer and longer and longer. Hey, what are your thoughts about the Big 12? And there are, in fact, there's been reports, and you, of course, have been a part of a lot of this throughout the way, that they might want to add Gonzaga. I know that that's at least on the table, but do you feel like that's realistic?
It's a desire. It has been a desire. It's either Gonzaga or those doing the valuing. I'm told that they're valuing themselves way more than what the market thinks they're worth. That doesn't mean they couldn't get that number as a basketball-only member from the Big 12. And, I mean, just think of a conference. And is it worth it for the Big 12 to pay that number? And I don't know what that number is. I'm just hearing they are somewhat overvalued in the industry. But if you've got Gonzaga, Kansas, Baylor, Arizona, let's say, you could break off and have your own media rights deal for basketball and just earn more money overall. And that might happen anyway.
Yeah, I get that impression from Mac. Yeah, I get that impression. We've talked to Mac about that is at least because of what Yormark's also trying to do with some of the international competition.
Yep.
What is this week like for you? Obviously, there's the media days that come in July, but for you, is this kind of nice to be able to have your hands right there, so to speak, with the molding of the clay, with what's going on in Destin, and eventually, as you mentioned, West Virginia?
Yeah, it's somewhat relaxed. It's at a resort on the ocean, the SEC deal here in Destin, and so you can somewhat get guys in a casual manner. Now, Nick Saban's not going to jolly around with everybody in the halls, but others will. And you can talk to people. There's a reception tonight, I think, where you can let your hair down. So you do find out things. You can find things. So, it's nice to see people again. It's like this, to me, the season starts this week. I know it doesn't, but it just edges towards being more important.
Dennis, Sankey has made it appears to me, you're there, but it appears as if I've seen some quotes from him that he would like the SEC to move into a 9-game model, a conference schedule. But as you said, there may not be enough votes, or it might be kicked down the line.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if we're gonna have this expansion of the college football playoff, the good teams are going to get in? Some of the alphas with their brand names are going to have to have less of room for, they'll have more room for error. But do you feel like everybody should play a 9-game conference schedule among the Autonomy 5?
That everybody should? Look, these guys couldn't agree on COVID. I wouldn't expect any of them to agree on the amount of games they play. It's unique to the SEC. Because they've got a new media rights deal, they've got 2 new teams, and would expect to get paid for it. And I was in the room last night when Sankey had this little confab with a few reporters around the table, and he made it clear, at least it seemed that way, that he prefers 9. We're at the forefront, we can't stand still. If for no other reason that it even adds to the strength. Now, a lot of coaches won't think that. You've got to consider bowl eligibility for teams like, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, what have you, Mississippi State. And then you have to think about how it would impact your national championship and playoff chances playing 5 road games every other week, 4 home games. And so right now, Smokey, we're almost 2 years to the day from the news Texas leaving, and Oklahoma leaving for the SEC, it's very real possibility that the SEC doesn't get 1 red cent more. Those 2 schools are going to get pro rata, $60 million, but right now it's like they're not going to get paid for it. They might in the future, and Greg Sankey pushed back on that when I asked him last night. He kind of said, "Well, check our tax returns in January 2026. Okay, I will. Nobody's saying they're scraping by, but there's so many issues in making that decision, and I think it'll just stay at 8. I mean, they've won 13 of the last 16 national championships. Worked pretty good during that time, so I think they'll just stay at 8.
One final thing for you. Dennis Dodd is in Destin at the SEC meetings. The Big 12 itself, with the last year of Texas and Oklahoma, UT, we know the hype machine that has been overmodulated way too many times, but they do seem like they're in a pretty good position, and it might be because we don't know enough about Oklahoma after last year. Obviously, K-State, TCU were the great story, what Joey's building at Tech, and who knows what Baylor can do after a bounce-back year if they can, among others. Do you have any idea how you're going to vote in your media poll if it was today?
For the Big 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what about Kansas State, the defending champion?
Mm-hmm.
You just can't count them out from year to year. Look what they've done under Chris Kleiman, carrying the banner on Bill Snyder. Given history, I would probably be inclined not to vote Texas number 1. I know they've got, it looks like, all the ingredients. I still need to see Quinn Ewers take the next step. I've got to see, the replacement for Bijan, which I know that the freshman's really, really good. Looks like the defense is loaded. They really got guys, Xavier Worthy and others, receiver, tight end. But you've got to counter all that against, 14 years now without a conference championship. Until I see it, I'm not going to be able to believe it. So, I would, is Oklahoma State there? Is TCU still a factor? Kansas State? And then you add the 4 new ones. I think it's going to be a heck of a year.
Yeah.
I can't answer the question, but I can't put Texas number 1.
Well, that's why we play the games and look forward to it. Dennis, I'll see you in Arlington. Big 12 Media Days. Great week for you. Enjoy it. Thank you. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports on 365 Sports.
Hope you enjoyed that.